We're going to get started with our dialogue between our guest artists. So this is really, a part of the event to absorb, lots of information, to know what's out there, to get inspired by projects and ideas and ways of working. And for this first spotlight session on intergenerational arts and arts through the course of life, working with different generations and different abilities as well. We've invited 4 guest artists from Canada and beyond. So in alphabetical order by first name, I'm so happy to have today with us Elizabeth Lynch, who's a creative producer and researcher-evaluator. So Elizabeth is joining us from London. It's about 5 o'clock perhaps for you. So tea time. Elizabeth is an arts consultant, producer and coach. She has pioneered and developed influential approaches to engagement and participation. And I'll just name a few current and recent projects that Elizabeth is working on. There's much more, just to locate Elizabeth, in her interests and expertise. She's currently Arts and Participation Advisor for the Museum of the Home. She recently published an evaluation report for a 3-week festival of creating aging, which was called Age Against the Machine. She also wrote a report on arts and dementia in the UK South Asian diaspora. And she's the chair of the board of Theatre Rights, which is a theatre company for young audiences. Which brings me to our next guest, which is who is Lisa Marie DiLiberto, who is the artistic director of a Toronto-based company for young audiences called Theatre Direct. So Lisa Marie has also toured the country, and you might have seen her in your community with her previous project, which was called Tale of a Town Canada, a multi-year theatre and media project that has toured to every province and territory. And Lisa Marie is also an advocate for artist caregivers. She's been running a research action project called The Balancing Act for the past few months, which is investigating what needs to change for artists to be able to be artists and parents. Next on our roster, we have the wonderful Rachel Marks, who is a participating artist in the ArtsEngage program. So Rachel is joining us from Delta, where she will be collecting oral history and creating a community celebration in the time of COVID. So Rachel is also a theatre educator, and she launched a small theatre school in a rural community to provide experience and opportunities for young people. So especially community theatre and summer camps with an emphasis on neurodiverse and disabled children and youth. Rachel is also a relaxed performance consultant. She has worked with the Toronto Symphony Orchestra and the National Ballet, and she is the network coordinator for Spark, supporting performing arts in rural and remote communities. So you should all be in touch with her about various things. And last and never least, we have Tom Carson, who is the executive director of the Smile Company, previously known as Smile Theatre. Tom has been working in theatre for over 25 years as a director, producer, administrator, writer, and teacher. He has a special interest in working with vulnerable audiences, ranging from young children to adults in the special needs community, seniors, and those living in care. So I'm now going to leave the floor open to our wonderful speakers. And I've got one main question to get you started. The main question that, would be great to have some examples and some ideas coming from all of you is, how do you get started? Quite simply, how do you get started on all these projects that you are managing? And first of all, before we launch into that, I'm going to ask you to do one round. It's a way of introducing yourself. I'm going to stop sharing now. As a way of introducing yourself, and we're going to bring the speakers on the screen. If you all start in the order of your choice, if you all start by telling us, what's the joy of your work? What brings you joy? And then the floor is over to you.
Great. Well, I'll start because I'm super joy-filled today. What brings me joy in my work currently is a program that we have running at Smile, which is through video chat, through Zoom. We're actually visiting seniors in long-term care settings and in hospital settings as well. And either individually or in rooms, and we're able to actually connect with them and sing with them and interact with them in a performance way, and to see, you know, at the beginning of one of these sessions, just the kind of, we get a glimpse of where people are at, we get a glimpse of their state of being, which lately tends to be super down and very challenging. And over the course of our time together, usually about 30 minutes or so, to see the progression of what offering song, offering an opportunity to engage creatively, an opportunity to be seen, and to have a bit of a voice with folks that are creative and engaging and inspiring, to see the progression over that time is just so rewarding. And it does make us realize that, you know, obviously through the pandemic, we're just doing the best that we can with the technology and the resources that we have, but that the power of the arts, the power of the creative work that we do and that we love so much is alive and well, and it does matter, and it does bring joy. So I receive, and the performers actually that I'm working with right now also receive just as much joy from that connection as the audiences.
So shall I jump in next? It was really great to hear that very immediate personal experience from Tom. And I'm not embedded in a particular project at the moment. So when you asked me this great question, Fanny, I was really taking a sort of bird's eye view of what brings me joy in general when I'm doing this work, working on whether it's an intimate project with a group of young women in the East End of London, or on a community theatre project, or a big procession, or a festival, or an event. It's the creating and working with people on something with a unifying ultimate purpose. And that brings me joy. And we may have slightly different ambitions and hopes and expectations for the project. There are varied levels of participation and commitment, and that's fine. That's the beauty of working with communities. It's the process, which is often demanding and challenging. You know, it's not all great. Sometimes it's slog. But when the work comes together and it's better than we all imagined it might be, there's a huge moment of uplift and joy. And so that process of collaborative working and of getting to know each other, making individual contributions to something that's somehow bigger than all of us, it's about creating meaning and memories. And I think that's the thing that I love about the work that I do.
Hi, is it okay if I go next? I was thinking about this myself and thinking about what brings me joy, and I was looking at the various things I do. So I work as accessibility and bookings for Roseneath Theatre, network coordinator for Spark, relaxed performance, or doing the community artwork that I'm doing now. And I realized the thing that really brings me joy is seeing the arts welcoming people that may have not felt welcome at the arts before, or may have not had the opportunity to be included. And for me, I I really truly believe that the arts are for everyone, and just being able to create programs or work with theater companies or symphonies in expanding their audience base and their performer base as well, really does bring me the most joy in the world.
That's so cool, Rachel, to hear, because I'm just looking if can everyone hear me? Yes. Because I'm just putting on speaker view, but I can only see Rachel. That's okay. So, because what really brings me joy is being able to work alongside my children and my family. And we were having a staff meeting on Tuesday, and actually one of the questions was, what's something that's brought you joy in the last week? And this last week I saw my son participating in one of our workshops, and then my other child was able to make a craft box for this big installation that we're doing. And one of the big reasons why I moved over to lead Theater Direct was so I could involve my family in the work that I'm doing, so I didn't have to spend so much time away from them as a theater practitioner. And at the beginning it was so much producing and so much arranging and kind of getting used to it, but now I'm starting to reap the benefits of this, being able to see them participate with me in these projects and come along, and that really brings me a lot of joy. And on top of that, when I see my other team members being able to experience this kind of joy by bringing their family or their life into the work, and for us to be able to make the kinds of accommodations that makes that possible, it really brings me joy to know that they feel supported and cared for, and that they're part of not just a place of work, but a community of artists that are collaborating to try and make the world a better place through theater. I know that sounds so optimistic, but it is really our goal in the end, I think. I think Fanny wants us. I know we're moving along too to another question, which we can bridge along here, which is what do you need to get started? And so I can get us going on that question by saying that I think a good team is really important, and it's not easy to find a great team, but when we figure out the way that we work and sort of our values in collaboration, and we can find people that share those values, that really, I think, is the basis for what we need to begin our work. People that we trust, people with diverse views and opinions. And in my case, it's been really amazing to see different artists in our team take the lead on different projects, and to be able to kind of support that and prop it up. So I'll start there. But the other thing I would say is partnerships, and maybe someone wants to take it away from there. Partnerships. Elizabeth, I'm sure there's a lot of partners in some of the work that you're doing, and I'm curious how you kind of bring all the partners together for some of the work you do.
Well, I really like what you said about starting with a good team and talking about purpose and values, because you need to know what they are before you go out and make those relationships with partners and with individuals in the community. And I've been working with an institution or two institutions recently who, partly because of where they were anyway, but partly because of the impact of COVID, are really interrogating their purpose and their values and the way they work and their relationship to their communities in a much deeper way. And there's a lot of a desire and a greater desire to co-produce with people, rather than saying, this is us and we're going to give you our marvelous stuff. It's about, in a way, creating that purpose with the people around them. So it's really embedded. So a part of that's, you know, they've got their teams, or they haven't got all their teams together, they've got their purpose, but they've got their values, but it's going out and talking to people. You know, people said to me, how do you get started? We're going to work on this housing estate across the road, we're going to work in this community. And I said, you just got to, you know, get your shoes on and your coat and go out and find people to talk to. Who is there a mother and toddlers group? Is there a youth club? And it's a mixture of things. It's the informal conversation, chats and cups of tea with individuals and small groups. But then you also have to have some structured, interactive, creative sessions that bring those disparate groups together, or strangers, and use some tools, some of our creative tools, to help focus the thinking on the purpose and the impact, and the who, the what, the when, and how. And then after that, the questions are, you know, sometimes you ask people, what do you want? And they may not know what they want. But if you ask people, how do you want to feel? Or what do you want to experience? What do you want to know? What do you actually want to be doing? Those questions will release information that will help you pull together the mosaic of the impacts that you want to have in the community, using the resources that you've got, whatever they are.
If I can add on to this idea about building your team, one thing I talk about a lot in lots of performances, and I think it goes with team, is being honest, not only about what you can offer, but about what you can't offer. Like, don't be afraid to say, this isn't my strength. And that can help you build those partnerships, I find. And it's, you know, it can be daunting, and sometimes it can be a little strange for us to say, well, no, I don't have this. But I think that's where the strengthening of the community ties comes, because you can reach out into the community and find that person, and use community consultants included in the work to help answer those questions that Elizabeth was speaking about.
Yeah, Rachel, I just to add on that, you know, sometimes we think, like, within our own organization, I often think this, oh, we have to be an expert at everything, but, you know, bit by bit, realize that, you know, you can just be good at what you do, you know, like in our case, making theater, creating events for young people, but we don't necessarily need to, for example, be the ones to do all the permitting at the park. We can engage the city to do that. Or, you know, if we're doing something, you know, that is with another has another artistic discipline, we want to run a webinar, we could call Fanny, you know. But really, to say that there's so many, or you know, as you were saying, Elizabeth, reaching out and looking what's just outside in your community, that really, we become stronger when we collaborate with other experts. And the more collaboration, probably the more people in our community that we're going to involve. And that means that the event is going to have, the event or the project is going to have more impact. And really, in the end, that's what we're aiming to do, is engage with as many people as possible in as a significant way as we can. So I think there really, we can't emphasize or stress enough how important it is to find community partners and to collaborate. And I'm sure everybody on this call knows that, or has an experience how bringing in community partners really helps. Tom, I know, like, with your work at Smile, you have a lot of partnerships in terms of, you know, the places where you go and the people that you work with, and perhaps you can tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I think you know, I obviously just echo so many things that you guys have said already, and I think that for me, in terms of partners and sort of rallying around a project, for me really begins with identifying a need. And I know I'm kind of in this mindset right now in a big way. So it's like almost everything I think about now is just filtered through the current situation, which is just sort of overwhelming. But I think what I find is that partnerships and, you know, even creative teams and all of that kind of stuff can really really come together around an identified need, or certainly kind of something that the project flows out of, even creatively. And sometimes I think, and the reason I just want to say that is like, sometimes we as artists can get caught up in our own kind of view, our own voice in a way that can actually be alienating for others. And so this idea that maybe we don't have all of the answers and we don't have everything figured out and we aren't the expert on this project before we start, and even though it is our brainchild, it's not this perfect thing in our mind that we have to craft out and just like give to somebody. So it's just that approach of saying, you know, for me certainly, just kind of going like, how am I caring for my audiences through this work? How am I, you know, finding and identifying the things that will resonate and speak to them, and then finding folks who are alongside that and agree with that and want to be part of that. And then the, you know, that natural formation of partnerships. I mean, it's one thing, I mean, just as Elizabeth was saying, it's like, it can be very organic and casual, and a conversation can be a partnership, as opposed to like, oh, you know, this grant proposal requires so many partnerships. Who can I get a letter from to have a partnership and make it that official thing? So it's kind of that idea that you know, partnership and collaboration is really the joy of making art in the community, and just like identifying those things and those people and places.
I have a question for Lisa Marie. Something you said in your joy was about including your family and bringing your family to the work. And I'm wondering if you found that that has an impact on how you see the community and community building relationships.
Yeah, Rachel, thanks. I mean, I'm trying more and more. You know, I think in my practice, which is theater, there's been so much emphasis in my coming up of, you know, I can say isolating has such a different connotation of being, you know, being really being alone and working really hard by yourself or with your away from your family, you know, sacrificing, being there 6 days a week, 10 hours a day, this kind of like that if you care, if you have a family or you have you know, other desires or you know, a desire for work-life balance, that negates your passion for the work. And I'm trying more and more, like through the way that I model what I'm doing, and through what I'm trying to offer to the people I'm working with, that we don't need to, you know, that doesn't negate our passion for the work. In fact, if we can approach our work more holistically and involve our life and our families, and take care of ourselves and each other, then in fact, the work, we're going to have more joy in the work. The work is going to be richer. We have more to bring to that work, and we can include more and more people. So different kind of, you know, and as we think through projects that involve the community, like and all ages, as we're talking about through this webinar, that, you know, the community isn't just like is made up of all kinds of people, from babies and moms and dads and seniors, and we don't have to also pigeonhole those people into one specific thing, like this activity is for moms and babies. Like moms are also artists, moms are also, you know, volunteers, moms are also the director, you know, that there's that we need to like kind of rethink the way that we categorize the community and the events, and see how we can, where the events are meeting the needs of different facets of the community on different levels and in more surprising ways than just this event is for seniors, this event is for babies. But, you know, we all want to come together. That's really what a community is, the coming together of everybody, and with everybody being welcome. So how do we frame the work that we do in that way? You can tell I'm an actor because I use my hands a lot there. So, you know, yeah, that's really what I'm thinking about. And I'm sure, you know, I know the work that Tom does. He brings together, you know, young people and emerging artists and seniors. And I'm sure, you know, how we frame all those things makes a big difference, and how we approach those things makes a big difference to who attends and who feels welcome.
I think one of the things that I'm hearing you talk about is relationship building, which is sometimes a different thing from partnership, because it implies a relationship with people rather than maybe an organization or a funding body. And what you're making me think of is when you have the opportunity to work over time in a community, either a physical community or with a community of artists or partners, you know, community partners, you've got those relationships can grow and develop, and they are really, really useful for you. You don't have to work with everybody the whole time. People will dip in and out of, you know, if you're an institution or a theatre company, but it's about, if it's not you, that other people may be in the community who hold that space over time, because they will have that sort of memory of the work that you're doing and hold that space, which is a great resource for when other artists come in who don't have those relationships. Those people can broker it, or you can broker the relationships. And I'm only saying this because I've worked for a long time in several communities, and I just love the way, you know, you worked with people who were children and now they're artists themselves. You know, you can see their journey, or people who are the same age as you have the same networks that you can draw on when you're trying to do something, as we've made the transition from working, you know, with our peers to being older ourselves. So there's something very exciting about that, thinking about personal relationships as well as organizational ones.
I like that. I like the idea of the personal relationships, because then that also feeds into a more equitable, diverse, and inclusive framework, right? So when Lisa Marie was saying, what's the framework that we do this? And for me, that's relaxing everything, right? Like making it open and welcome. So yeah, I really like your idea of relationships. Tom, do you have a lot of relationships working within your community?
Yes, for sure. And I think one of the things that I wanted to touch on in the breakout sessions is just around the kinds of relationships that certainly I need to do in my work when trying to connect with marginalized populations and vulnerable populations, because quite frankly, those folks are behind multiple gates, and so trying to you know, find your way through what we might consider to be a customer or something like that, to actually reach our audience, and the kinds of different language we need, the kinds of different approaches we need to really navigate the kind of gatekeepers and the kind of like different people who control the access. And so, you know, Rachel, like, as you know, as somebody who's an expert in accessibility and who, you know, can identify, you know, sometimes companies go like, how come that community isn't showing up? Like, I invited them, and meanwhile you don't have accessible levers, you don't have ways of people to find it or whatever. They aren't even aware that they're not accessible. And so I think for me, you know, the relationship aspect is just so important, because you can developing a relationship with people who are gatekeepers, who are essentially curating experiences, in particular for you know, marginalized populations. From in my experience, folks who live in care settings, you know, there's so many different people that I need to talk to just to meet a senior in care. So those relationships are just so important. And, you know, just Elizabeth, as you were saying, in terms of the longevity of those relationships or the genuineness of those relationships. So it's not like, hey, I need I need 20 people to show up. Like, who can I call and like get a group, right? Or whatever. Like, not that I've ever done that. I've never done that. So it's just that feeling that, you know, we do need on our side to invest in those relationships and be genuine and like look for those ways to be accessible as a person and as a creative artist, and also look for ways to kind of like convince those folks who you know are kind of really isolating people and maybe not even aware that they're isolating them, and just be frank and open and honest and in relationship with them.
Because when you have a relationship, you can have trust. And when you've got some trust there, it means that you can push people, you can challenge them, you can take risks, you can experiment, because they'll enjoy that. They're with you on that. You know, they trust that they can take risks with you in a safe place, that they'll have a role, that their responsibilities will be clear. There's that structure of making art, whatever it is, making work. And, you know, that's a great thing, I think, because people, I find that often when I've been working with artists and communities and I bring in some very experimental artists who to many people would seem very avant-garde, if they are the right artists, but because they trust me or they trust the institution I work for, they'll go, yeah, whatever, we're going to do it. Let's go. Because they know it's going to be all right. And actually, it's brilliant. Of course, it's brilliant.